January 23rd, 1960, two men climbed inside a steel sphere the size of a small car. They sealed the hatch behind them, and they began to sink. They were descending into the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the entire ocean, the deepest point on the surface of the entire Earth, 35,814 feet down, nearly 7 miles beneath the surface. No human being had ever gone there. No human being had ever come back. And what they found at the bottom, nobody was prepared for. Stay with us until the end, because what they saw on the seafloor that day didn't just make history. It started a debate that scientists are still having today. The year is 1953. A Swiss physicist named Auguste Piccard has spent his entire life doing the impossible. He had already built a balloon that carried him to the edge of the stratosphere, higher than any human had ever gone. Now, his obsession had flipped entirely. He wanted to go lower than any human had ever gone. He designed a vessel he called a Bathyscaphe, a pressurized steel sphere attached to a float filled with aviation fuel. No engine, no propeller, just a controlled descent into absolute darkness. He called it the Trieste. His son, Jacques Piccard, took over the project, and in 1958, the U.S. Navy assigned a young officer named Walsh to the mission. Walsh was 28 years old. Jacques Piccard was 37. Together, they were going to the bottom of the world. January the 23rd, 1960, 8:23 in the morning, the Trieste slipped beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean near Guam and began to fall. The descent took 4 hours and 48 minutes. Inside the sphere, two men, a tiny porthole of plexiglass 6 inches thick, and instruments that had never been tested at these depths. The temperature outside dropped to near freezing. The darkness became total. The pressure climbed to levels that would crush an unprotected human body like paper. And then, at around 30,000 feet, with still over a mile to go, there was a loud crack. One of the outer plexiglass window panes had fractured under the pressure. The men had no way to know if the inner sphere was compromised. They looked at each other, and they made the decision to keep going. At 1:06 in the afternoon, 4 hours and 48 minutes after leaving the surface, the Trieste touched the bottom of the Challenger Deep. They had 20 minutes on the bottom, 20 minutes, at a place no human being had ever seen. No sunlight had ever reached. No sound from the world above had ever penetrated. In those 20 minutes, Jacques Piccard looked through the portal and saw something that changed the scientific consensus. Overnight, a flatfish, approximately 1 foot long, lying on the sediment of the deepest place on Earth, alive. At the time of the dive, scientists widely believed complex life could not survive below 20,000 feet. The pressure, the cold, the darkness, and yet a fish was lying on the seafloor, 7 miles below the surface, just existing. Piccard later wrote that seeing that fish was the most significant moment of the entire mission. Not the depth record, not the engineering triumph, the fish, the proof that life finds a way, in any condition, at any depth, in any darkness. The ascent took 3 hours and 15 minutes. When the Trieste broke the surface, Walsh climbed out first. Jacques Piccard followed. They had been gone for nearly 9 hours. They had touched the deepest point on the planet, and they had come back. The achievement made headlines around the world. Scientists rewrote textbooks, but perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is what came after. For the next 52 years, nobody went back. The moon received 6 crewed landings between 1969 and 1972. The Challenger Deep received 1 visit in 1960, and then silence. It wasn't until 2012 that a human returned. Film director James Cameron descended alone to the Challenger Deep. He spent 3 hours there and came back saying the place felt, in his own words, desolate, lunar, isolated. As of today, more people have traveled to outer space than have reached the bottom of the Challenger Deep. We have more detailed maps of the surface of Mars than of our own ocean floor. 2 men, a steel sphere with walls 5 inches thick, a cracked window at 30,000 feet, and the decision to keep going. Jacques Piccard died in 2008, never having returned to the bottom. Walsh lived to see multiple return expeditions and remained one of the ocean's greatest advocates until his passing in 2023. The fish Piccard reported seeing is still debated by scientists today. Some believe it was a sea cucumber, not a fish. Others insist his account was accurate. Either way, something was alive down there, in the darkest, most pressurized, most hostile environment on Earth. Something was there, living, in the place everyone said nothing could survive. If that doesn't make you want to know what else is down there, I don't know what will. Subscribe to Deep Sea Wonders for a new deep dive every single week, and drop a comment below. If you were Don Walsh or Jacques Piccard, would you have kept descending after that crack? I want to know your answer. Until next time, stay curious, keep looking down,